Привет, друзья. Надеюсь, у вас все хорошо. Okay, I think I got you there. Like for a second you thought, oh, it's another Russian tutorial, I'm not gonna understand anything, but hey, it's not. So stick with me. We're gonna discuss how we can set up our own decentralized VPN server, per se, on the runonflux network, okay? And to basically explain why we're gonna use runonflux platform, it's cheaper. It's cheaper, more accessible, easier to use. You have to maintain it less than when you're using a traditional virtual machine solution, anything like that. So that's why we use the runonflux platform, which is basically a platform, a decentralized cloud infrastructure providing platform that utilizes the Dockerization technology and all sort of that for your application. And today we're gonna use that in order to deploy this whole VPN application. Okay, we're gonna use the SSH protocol. There's another tutorial by a great guy, I just don't remember the name, that uses the soft ether protocol and OpenVPN, but they're not accessible on all the operating systems. But with SSH, you can use it basically on any operating system that you want to. Okay, let it be Mac OS, Windows, Android, iOS, you name it. You can use it. There either is a command line that you could use or a client. That's why we're going to use SSH. Okay. Now the advantages to runonflux is that it basically is cheap. It's like 1/10 of the traditional solution's price. Okay, but you get your own VM. It's basically 1/10. Okay. Basically, if I want to set up my own VPN for a month, I'm going to have to pay 50 cents with Flux, and I'm going to get 3 IPs. But with a traditional data center solution, I'm going to pay, I don't know, the minimum is like $4, right? I'm going to pay $4 and get one IP? Huh? Are you joking me? And your hands are not free for the geolocation. But with runonflux, you can choose whatever geolocation you want. I don't know, South Africa and Central Africa, something like that. And you can go as deep as choosing the state or city where you want the designated IPs to be allocated from, right? And one better point, another cool point, is that with runonflux you have access to residential IPs. Yeah, so a normal user like me or you utilizes their processing power to provide something to the network and get rewarded for it. They could use that IP. You could use my IP too. Okay, so that's one big advantage that we have. But don't do anything shady. I mean, like if you use a VPN, just use it to bypass restrictions. Don't go into shady stuff. I'm not gonna go deep into it, but I once gave my friend one of the IPs. He violated all the terms of service for me. But like, don't do that. Okay, so now we're gonna just get into it. Okay, so this whole video is divided into 2 parts. Okay, one part is preparing all the preliminary prerequisites that we're going to need in order to build the Docker image and push it into the cloud Docker Hub and use it on the Flux network on the runonflux platform. And the second part is how to actually set up the application on the runonflux. Okay, now we're going to get to it based off of this roadmap. Okay, now if you want to start from scratch and like understand how all the code that I have prepared over here works, follow me through until here. Yeah. And if you just want to set up your application and use my own Docker file, use here. The second half of the video. So let's get into it. First of all, you have to install WSL and Docker. If you're using Windows machine or a Mac OS, you have to install this WSL. For Windows, it's WSL. I don't know what it is for Mac OS, but WSL stands for Windows Sub Linux. And then you have to install Docker. If you're using a Linux machine in the first place, you have to just install the Docker engine and start on from there. Okay, so install the WSL Docker. Okay, we're going to start off with that. And let me just, here it is. And this GitHub repository. I'm going to post a link to this into the description. You're going to be able to follow up there, but just follow up these 5 steps. You're going to install WSL and Docker. I'm not going to explain them here. Easy as pie or F. Okay, and then you have to whitelist your Docker repository on the runonflux GitHub page. Okay, so basically, your Docker repository is not whitelisted on their platform. Okay, and in order for you to be able to use your own Docker image, your own custom tailored application, you have to whitelist it on the runonflux. Okay, so first come over here, fork it. I have forked it already, as you can see, but fork it, and then you go to your own repository and come to helpers. And then repositories.json. Okay, and then you edit this for your own self on your own main branch. I've already added GIF, as you can see, and then you commit changes. Let me just add another Seth too, so you could see how it's done. Like, surely you've worked with GitHub, and if you haven't, you're gonna see it now. And yeah, that's it. Just commit changes. So they deposited as a JSON. And after that is done, we're gonna come back to the main page. We're gonna create a pull request, open a pull request, okay? And they have a base template for it where you have to justify why you need to use your own custom tailored image. Okay, so what do you want to run in FLUX? Is your desired application running somewhere already? Is your application open source? Answer this question. There's a checklist, check them off, and you have to agree with this term of service. Read it, don't violate it, be civilized, okay? And then create the pull request, and from 24 to 48 hours, they're going to review it, and they're hopefully going to pass it and accept it and merge it, and you're going to be able to use your own Docker Hub repository on their platform, okay? So that is done. You've now whitelisted your Docker repository. Next, we have to install Zilcore. So we install Zilcore in order to deal with the payments, right? Because you need to pay for the service that you're going to get, right? And depending on your mission, you come to zilcore.io, downloads, and you download it. I've already downloaded Zilcore over here, okay? But you download Zilcore and you set up your account over there and you wire some funds to it, okay? So that's with it. Now we're off to the fourth one. So you have to create the Docker file. So now let me explain the whole application architecture per se. First of all, you need to have a Docker file. It uses base image Ubuntu 18.4. You could use any distribution version you want, but I just like Ubuntu, man. And then I've defined 3 environmental variables: RP, which stands for root password, and then RUP, remote user's password, and then UDP port, which is for the UDP-GW port. So here's the thing with SSH tunneling. It only supports TCP packets, but you need to add something else to support the UDP packets. So that's where this UDP port comes into play. I've set it up as an environment variable and with default value of 37300, but you can change it into whatever you want, okay? We install dependencies, OpenSSH Nano. If you want to do anything with it, you can remove it either way. Yeah, these are just random things that we have to add. Not random, a little bit like trivial, okay? Now there are two main components to this code, okay? There's this listen_sh, which is a command that is going to get ran in the background after the container is set up in order to be able to listen for the UDP packets. And this entry point is responsible for running these two listen and start sh files, okay, the shell files. And we're going to use that in our entry point for the Docker file, okay? And this is start.sh is basically responsible for that UDP packet handling, right? And we use that VPN UDP-GW dependency. Their GitHub is over there. I don't recall the dev who wrote this, but it's pretty handy and useful, and it's going to support our optimized gaming performance for video call support for this VPN server, okay? So that's it. Now then we have to come over here. Let's see where are we with this. Okay, type. Yeah, okay. So we come over to the command line. We just say docker build -t, say VPN from this repository. It's going to build it for us behind this so you can see it. It builds, it takes some time. It passes. You can see it passes. After it is built, we're gonna tag this. I've already ran the command. We're gonna tag this and then we're gonna push it. It's gonna get pushed into the cloud. Okay? So we've done everything that we have to. All the preparations are done. Okay? Then you have to purchase some Flux. You can use it. You can purchase it from a central exchange like, I don't know, Binance, Mexi, KuCoin. These 3 I know they support this. And after that, we get to the cool part of actually deploying the application. Then we have to come home.runonflux.io. Okay, let me start from the login page so you can see how it's done. Okay. Yeah. I've logged out. You come over here, log in. I'm going to use my Flux ID, which is like my Zilcore wallet. You could use the other options, but don't use them. Be a chat and use all the decentralized methods that are at your disposal. Yeah, and then we get into applications. Register new app. Here's where the good part comes, okay? I've already done this. I've created an app, but just for the sake of presentation, let's go for it. For the name and the description, you just have to choose a name that is not already used on the network for it to be specific to your own application, okay? So that's it. You have to fill these 2 fields. And yeah, the rest are just optional. But these 2, you have to. Okay. And then the allow geolocations, okay? So basically you want to designate from which geolocations you want IPs to be allocated to your application. Okay, so in this case, if you're, let's say, for example, you're from China, okay, and you want to bypass the network restrictions, you just forbid the geolocation from China over here. Let me find China. Yeah, China. And you're going to allow just providers from Europe. And you could go as deep as, like, I'm going to go with Finland, the country and region. What is it? Usima, something like that. And that's it. Okay? And going with either of these is good enough. Okay? So basically, like, you just based on your own use case. Now, here's where the interesting part comes in. Instances is the number of IPs that you want, the number of instances that you want to have your application run. Okay? The more the instances, first of all, the higher capacity you have to use your application, and the better the uptime. Okay, but like even with 3 instances, you're gonna have a higher uptime or higher probability of a uptime than a traditional EM solution. Okay, and the period can go from 1 week as far as a year. Okay, I'm like just gonna set 1 month so you could see the pricing for the component. Nothing special. I'll just put a name over there. If you want to use this platform, you're gonna get to a point where you see the use case of having multiple components, but right now 1 component suffices and we don't need much detail on it. And for the repository, we enter the repository that we have whitelisted. Okay, it's VPN. Here's where we could just use this repository if you haven't done anything. Okay, now for the ports, we need to designate 2 ports. Okay, one for the SSH one on the container and another for the UDP/GW. Okay, now on my container, I'm gonna put this 3999 just for these. And domains, make sure to have at least 2 empty slots for them, because we're not gonna use custom domains. But if you're gonna use custom domains, you can just fill these up. And the container ports are 22 and 37,300. Okay, so that's it. For the environment variables, we had 3 environmental variables, right? It was RU, which was for the root password. I'm just gonna say password. Okay. That's it. And we had, I don't know, what else do we have? We had RUP, remote user password. I'm just going to put this password too. And we had the UDP/GW port. And I'm going to put that, I don't know, for the UD port. What's the name of it? Let me double check. It was UD port. I'm going to set that to the default value of 37,300. Yeah, that's it. And for the container data, just use temp. Makes no difference. FLUX is cool, I'm going to explain it further, but for the container data, it would just suffice if you use temp, right? Like, if you have volumes, you could do some nice tricks with it. Agree with the term of service and legit agree with it. Just don't check off the box. This is crypto. If you agree to something, there's no way stepping back. They call the blame. Now, compute registration message. As you can see, this name is already used. Okay, I've used it. So we're gonna go with test 3, or test 4. Your name has to be specific to your application. It has to be unique, man. And then here you see the magic: 50 cents for 1 month of your application running with 3 instances. Okay, of course you could tweak with this setting to have a higher CPU, higher RAM, higher SSD, but trust me, with this image, this is more than enough. This is more than enough because you're just gonna tunnel your traffic, not traffic. And yeah, so that's it. That's basically all of it. Okay. And the next video, I don't know if they're gonna be. Okay, so in the next video, we're gonna discuss FDM, Flux Domain Manager. So okay, so let me take the panel over here to show you something. So I already set up this test application over here. Okay, so as you can see, we come to our management panel, manage it. Okay, and let me go with the running instances. Okay, so let's say I copy this IP. Now you have to come up to this netmod thingy. It's a client for Windows. You add your profile, like you add this as your hostname. Yeah, your port that you've designated over there. Root is the username and password is the password. And you're just gonna basically press connect, and it's gonna connect for you. Okay. Now, it has a problem right now because I just deployed it. It's going to take some time to load, but yeah, it works. Now, the thing is that these IPs, they need to be, they change constantly, okay? They get updated. And you need some sort of domain manager, not a DNS server, a domain manager that tracks these IPs and creates or updates type A records for you. Okay, and that's the next point that we're going to cover. There's a good guy named Glasshouse. That's his username on GitHub, who has developed this code package, this custom FDM. We're going to use that. I'm going to teach you how to use that, and then you're going to have a full functional VPN. Right now, you just have to constantly check for IP changes and use the latest IPs. But with that way, no, just set up a type A record, and it's just going to get updated constantly, and you don't have to worry about anything. And that's it. I'm going to list everything in the description, documentations, descriptions, whatever, links, and ways that you could contact me on GitHub or Telegram. Or just comment your questions, and I'm going to try to reply to them. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. See you. Bye-bye.